When I decided to permanently relocate and evacuate California, no one understood why. And then that's when I realized I needed to change my circle of friends because they're not seeing what I'm seeing, which was so obvious that that just means the friends that I'm around, friends and family, they're just not paying attention. They're just not aware of their surroundings. I saw the writing on the wall. I saw the fact that people were calling police, they would no longer show up. I saw that people were getting away with smash and grab robberies, murders were being unsolved, no one was being arrested, crime rampant, and they were encouraging people to wear masks while going into banks and stores. And until 2020, in all of history, when you wore a mask into a bank, that means you were about to rob the place. I started noticing that they were pushing this gay agenda everywhere. I would walk into stores and men were dressed as women and they were trying to pass that off as being normal. And the teachers would putting up gay flags in the classrooms and talking to kids about their sex life. And this was being reported by parents. So this was only inherently in places initially like California. Then I saw that I found out they had passed the Senate Bill 145, which decriminalized the penalties for being caught having sex with kids underage if the kid says he's gay too. And I was like, wow, this is getting really, really weird. So I made a decision to leave California, and I had people that were looking at me crazy, like, why would you want to leave here? Like, as if California's the only state in the country that has electricity, plumbing, and economy. And as soon as you drive out of here, you're just in an empty land, just an empty hellhole, outdoor porta potties everywhere. Like you're just going into a jungle of like, or just into a desert of the unknown. We pretend that there's no society outside of California, the arrogance. And now California has collapsed to the point that even the wealthiest billionaires are now making their escape because, well, there's a new tax coming where they want 5% of your tax starting this year, 5% of your total net worth. So if you're a billionaire, the state of California wants hundreds of billions of dollars to be transferred to them from you, just so they can give it to probably fraudulent daycares that are owned by illegals from other countries. This is how. Let's take a listen. This is going to be the story about the descendant of the founders of In-N-Out. She's the current owner, and why she's relocating to one of the three last remaining states in our republic. The last of the republic, for the most part, is Texas, Florida, and Tennessee. That's it. And she's relocating to Tennessee. I relocated to Texas. Everyone else with any sense left New York, relocated to Florida. Remember those three states I just said. So let's take a listen.
$5.90. That's what this costs. $6 for a double-double from the most iconic burger joint in California history. And the billionaire who owns this place, the woman whose grandparents started this company 77 years ago in Baldwin Park, she just said, I'm done. She's moving.
And by the way, as soon as this video is over, I'm talking about as soon as I get up from this chair, I'm literally going to go to In-N-Out Burger and I'm going to make a video and I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm going to tell you guys all about it. We're going to In-N-Out. Forget, we're all going to go to In-N-Out. If you're in Dublin, Ireland, if you're some of my followers that are in France or in Deutschland, wie geht's dir? Alles gut für alle Haitian here. We're going to go to In-N-Out. We're going to go try all this food. I'm going to show you guys what all the hype's about. But that's after this video. So let's continue.
To Tennessee, packing up her family and leaving California behind.
Like you said, there's a lot of great things about California, but raising a family is not easy here. Doing business is not easy.
Now that's new. It used to be a good state to raise a family because we had something called suburbs. So if you didn't want to live in the inner city, you could move to one of the adjacent areas, or you could move 20 or 30 minutes out. I'm from Los Angeles. So if you didn't want to go to West Covina, then you could go to El Monte, or you could go to further out like Ontario or Fontana, Rancho Cucamonga. You could go to, different areas. You didn't really want to go to Pomona. That's a little too close to LA. So there's a really strong gang influence, especially when I was a kid. But you wanted to get away from those inner city issues. But what parents didn't realize is that their children that they're relocating were wannabes, and they would bring the gang issues with them. So you're trying to get your kids away from the gang. Your kids will get to a new city that's safer with better kids, and they would adopt this gang persona and come up with this new identity of some tough guy, and they'll create the gangs in those areas. So it's not like California was always like this. It took time, but it was a dramatic shift between 2020 and today. And that's why we all left.
Here now.
And I started asking myself, what finally broke her? What pushed a woman worth almost $9 billion, whose family built this empire right here in California, to just walk away? So I started digging. And what I found isn't just about burgers. It's about you and a bill that's coming that you can't escape. So let me tell you a story. Baldwin Park, a guy named Harry Snyder and his wife, Esther, scrape together everything they've got. They open a burger stand 10 feet by 10 feet, tiny. No invest.
You know, it's crazy. I always thought the In-N-Out burger that I used to go to when I was a kid, it was off of Vineyard in the city of Ontario, like if you're driving towards Ontario Mills, and right off the exit was an In-N-Out. And I thought that was the number one location that was built, but I think it's like number 2 or 3. But it's actually, I didn't even know Baldwin Park is where In-N-Out began. That's a history lesson for us all.
No franchise deals, no private equity. Just a husband and a wife selling burgers out of a window. Harry builds the first drive-through speaker box himself with his own hands. California's first drive-through ever.
Some of my earliest memories being exposed to In-N-Out were in this office. This was my uncle's office. And, for me, he was just this magical uncle. He had a larger than life personality and just seemed to make things happen. And we always had fun together.
And here's what gets me. They don't expand fast. They don't cut corners. They got fresh beef, hand-cut fries every single day for 77 years. Look around. This place still operates the same way. That guy back there, he's cutting real potatoes right now. Not frozen, not prepackaged, real potatoes. Harry dies in 1976. His son Rich takes over. Rich dies in a plane crash in 1993. The other son, Guy, steps up. Guy dies of an overdose in 1999. One by one, his family buries their own.
You know, this actually gives more credence to the fact that we have to have more kids. We need more kids because things happen. People die, but you're going to need a legacy. You're going to need offspring. Well, first things first, if you have a business for your kids to be a part of so that they're not begging someone else to give them a job when they grow up, you do need more kids. This is your contribution to society. This is what literally God wants for you. It's in the Bible. Now, personally, I don't have kids, but I'm going to be taking my own advice soon. But again, I'm working. I'm building. I want my kids, they will work for me. As a child, I worked for my family business. And then it got to a point where I didn't necessarily want my family controlling everything I do or having to be in part of all my business just because I work for them because, family's controlling. So I ended up working for other people and branched out on my own. But you do need more kids because at the end of the day, it's billions of dollars and their family is pretty much limited because the parents opted out of having a lot of kids. So you got to look at it from different angles here.
And you know what they never did? They never sold. They never franchised. They never left California. Esther, the original founder, now a grandmother, takes over at 79 years old, runs the company until she dies in 2006. And then there's only one person left, Lindsay. The granddaughter, she was 17 when her dad died. 17 years old. The last
one grandchild, one. No one else had any accidental. I mean, you start thinking about it. Even accidental kids are kids. They're still family. Yeah, it's rough. You had a kid out of wedlock, not, and I don't promote that at all, but Jesus, that's better than nothing. It's still family. You guys can still grow and be there for each other. And I'm from a really big family, huge, where there's too many of us actually. And for the most part, we're all men. It's me. My mom had, a bunch of sisters, and because, my grandparents had a lot of kids, and then they all had sons. So it was really just me and a bunch of my cousins, and we're just all out here in the world doing different things, trying to make different things happen. That's important. That's extremely important because you want to diversify your family so that you guys can grow, but you guys can also have each other. This woman's alone. She's the lone granddaughter. This is a lot of pressure, but it looks like she's handling it well from what I can tell. She's doing really, really well.
Last Snyder standing. She inherits $1 billion company. You know what she does? She stays. She raises her family here. She builds the company to over 400 locations. She fights for California for 77 years. 4 generations of this family bled for this state. And California broker, COVID hits. Sacramento says, check your customers' vaccine cards or we shut you down.
Could you imagine going to a fucking fast food restaurant and they're asking you about your personal medical information so that you could buy a burger and some goddamn salty fries? If that, see, the reason I left California, one of the reasons, is when they started talking about doing the vaccine passports, where they wanted you to, not only they wanted to force you to take a medical experimental substance that no one to this day can verify exactly where it comes from. The technology that they're finding inside of it is an easy 100 or more years ahead of the technology that we have today. We do know these vaccines, they're not even vaccines. We do know these injections were created long before warp speed, sometime in the early 2000s or late 90s. We don't know anything else about them. We don't know. We know Pfizer and Moderna and AstraZeneca and Johnson and Johnson. We know they didn't come up with this injection, the mRNA. They didn't create the technology. We don't know anything else. We don't know. So they wanted to force you to take it, and then you had to show proof. Because a stranger, some kid with a mask on, is going to ask you to verify your personal medical information. To hell with 100+ years of having HIPAA laws and protections and all these things about privacy. To hell with them all. Because the television and some weird asshole named Fauci and a couple of Democrats are telling you that you need to do this to save grandma. Yeah, screw you and grandma, bro. No. So I actually had a similar incident like this with Gavin Newsom. They wanted me to shut down my corporate housing company because, well, they were saying, oh yeah, you're a super spreader because you're still housing different people day by day. And what if they're bringing in a virus? But I'm not an idiot. I understand that viruses don't even leak. They don't even exist. They technically do not exist. There's been no proof that there's any such thing as a virus. A virus is a theoretical proposal for how disease spreads, but it's never been verified. Germ theory is itself a theory. We don't understand how sickness is spread no more than we understand how multiple different women's periods can sync up at the same time. The way that's like this weird mystical thing that happens, it's the same thing about how people get sick. We still do not understand. They've experimented in the past, and they've taken sick people, and then they've experimented on hundreds of prisoners where they were taking bodily fluid from sick people, having them sneeze and cough on others. They've never once been able to actually show that this one sick person gave another person a sickness. They've never been able to verify that, and they've tried. So me knowing all this information, I'm like, no way I'm playing this game. I'm out. I don't get me wrong, I kept my business open, and they sued me, and they were taking me to court, and on the day of, they dropped everything against me. So I won. But my competitors at the time, everyone else around me in California, my friends, you know what they were doing? Oh, Rico, I don't want my apartments. You want to take them over? Oh man, I'm selling all my furniture. You want to take them over? And you know what I said? Abso-fucking-lutely. Yep, I'll take them all. So now my portfolio goes from 8 Airbnbs to 20 to 25 to 30. I think at my peak between 4 states, I had like 30 something, 33, 34 Airbnbs. That's how that came with the fact that I was willing to fight to stay open when everybody else gave up. In-N-Out, she did the same thing. She said no. They were going to shut her. They threatened to shut down In-N-Out. Do you know how insane that is? In the state of California, where it's originally from. I'm in Arizona today. I'm about to go to one in Tempe where there is literally what is it like? It's the busiest In-N-Out in the entire country, pumping 24 hours a day. And they threatened to shut them down over an imaginary disease because they wanted to give you an experimental injection that is now magically giving everybody cancer and heart attacks. That's why I make videos now. Your favorite creators, your favorite newscasters, they wanted to keep these jobs where they were making all this money. And when they came down and said, hey, even though you work in the studio by yourself and you work from home, we're going to need you to take this experimental medical procedure or you're fucking fired. I could not get fired. So I didn't take shit. And even if I was going to get fired, I still wouldn't have took it. I would have rather been homeless. I would rather sleep on the streets, me and my dogs, than to let anyone coerce me or force me or threaten me into doing anything that I don't see the purpose in doing. We had to draw the line somewhere. I think now with not just the COVID stuff, but if she has children, if she has sons, and she sees that there's literally a push for your boys to be girls and to be gay, she has to get them the hell out of there. Has to. I have friends that I told them a few years ago, hey, you know, your little boys, you got to get them out of school in California. You got to homeschool them. And people laughed at me. And now some of them, their sons are wanting to be girls. They're already, you know, they're coming to a certain age where you can tell who a boy is going to be. And they're wondering like, well, what happened? What did I do wrong? And I'm like, well, it's not you. There's a school you send your kid to. They spend twice as much time with your kid per day. The school is implementing their values into your son. It's not you and your values. Matter of fact, they're going to turn your son against you in a couple of years. And when they go off to college, they will come back a multicolored hair, septum wearing, confused Democrat protester, and you are screwed. No more ambitions of having grandchildren or passing on your lineage or being a grandparent. That's a wrap. This woman sees that is coming. That is the goal for her family. If you stay in California, that's what Gavin Newsom wants for your kids. He wants more trans kids. He wants your kids to be trans, which is basically he wants your kids to be confused and abused, mentally ill and suicidal. He's calling for it. So if you're a woman or you're a man, and you're thinking about if you're considering your family above everything, then you would have already left California, which is what this woman is doing now. But it's a little too late because, well, she's still here, a part of this fiscal year. So they're going to still try to take her and she's going to have to fight. It's going to cost her millions just to fight them taking hundreds of millions away from her. This is crazy.
Lindsay says no.
Well, there were so many pressures and just hoops we were having to jump through. You know, you've got to do this. They have to wear a mask. You have to put this.
What I think about the Venezuelan situation, well, I'm Cuban. And just like the rest of us Latinos who families came to the United States to escape communists and socialists, we don't like That's why do you think we don't deal with American communists and American socialists? In the United States, the black community is communist, the gay community is communist socialist, the black community are Marxists. So that's why when they try to say, "Oh yeah, black and brown," do not mix us in your bullshit. We believe in freedom. We appreciate what Trump did. He freed Venezuela. We wish we had this kind of freedom in Cuba, and honestly, it's looking like we will soon. And then eventually, maybe a lot of us can open up businesses and return to Cuba. But just like in Cuba and just like in Venezuela, they use the darker people in the population who make up the majority to try to go after the fair skinned people in the population. And they convince you that the cure to racism is communism. Just vote for me. But really, and that's the reason why everybody that looks in Cuba, lives in Miami looks like my mom, but everyone that looks back on my country looks like me and my dad. There's a reason behind that. Those people, and if you look at the United States, they're using the black community to kind of try to basically sow dissent in the country and overthrow the American government as well. That's a part of the plan. Why do you think that they have the highest murders rates, but the media runs cover and says, actually, even though they do all the killing, you really got to worry about these evil white people. They're running cover. That's their black army, if you will. So I appreciate what Trump did, and Venezuela's free. No more communism or socialism. Do you know how beautiful and well-to-do Venezuela was before Chavez took over? But then again, you got to understand, you can vote your way into communism. You just can't vote your way out. And when you're listening to people that are saying, "Oh yeah, everybody should be equally poor because I'm dark skinned, that's why I can't get a job and I can't work." The same thing in Venezuela. And those are the people that voted them into communism. And honestly, to ignore them or even remove their right to vote wouldn't be the worst idea, because look at what they vote for. They vote against your country's best interest, and they vote in favor of turning over your country to communism, changing your form of government into communist, because they want everyone to be equally poor because they're insecure and they hate to see others doing better than them because you might have a stronger work ethic. That's the beauty of the United States. When we came here looking for freedom, it wasn't we wanted to be so free that we can literally get on government assistance and get free money. That's not the kind of freedom my family was looking for. My family came here because we wanted the freedom to work. See, in our country, you couldn't, depending on, no matter how hard you work or didn't work, you didn't have the opportunity to make more than other people. But in the United States, you can outwork other people, or you can be smarter than them. And then you can earn more based on how much you want to work and put into it. That's the part of freedom in the United States. You can literally choose to outwork everyone around you, and you can make more and you can excel. That's not an option everywhere else on earth. Actually, that's not an option anywhere on earth. Not anymore. So that's why the United States is great. Venezuela now has a chance. There's not very many places where you can go where you have these opportunities. With the right government, since Venezuela has strong oil strategic reserves, the largest in our region, or I think like one of the largest in the world, without a dictator, they can actually go back into a capitalist society in maybe under 3 years and get back to work, get back to business. And their people who fled, the 8 million Venezuelan people that left the country, they can be repatriated and come back. So, and that's the goal. They're celebrating in these other countries, and they're like, well, we're ready to go home. It's a beautiful place. I mean, I live in South America, so it's an amazing place. So that's what I says.
Plastic thing up between us and our customers, and it was.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd support Trump. Who else would I support? We only have one president.
Really terrible.
Her company released a statement, and I'm going to read this to you because it matters. We refuse to become the vaccination police for any government. It is unreasonable, invasive, and unsafe to force our restaurant associates to segregate customers.
Held the line. Like, we're not policing our customers.
What the hell? You know what California did? They shut her down.
Yes, we were shut down for a brief moment, but it's worth it.
They fined her. They came after 5 more stores in Contra Costa County. $1,750 in fines, citations, and threats.
And they make that every 2 seconds or less than that. So ridiculous.
But she held the line. Then crime exploded. Her Oakland location, opened for 18 years, profitable, had to close. You know why? 1,335 police incidents, over 1,000 car break-ins, robberies, and listen to this. A gunshot went through the walls of the store. First store closure in 77 years.
Guess where that one store that had all those crime incidents and had, people shooting at it? Guess what neighborhood it was located in? Guess who lives in that neighborhood? I give you a hint. The word usual comes up.
Not because it was failing, because California couldn't keep employees safe. And then the minimum wage hikes, the regulations.
Yes, the answer is Oakland. Oakland, California.
Then the cost of living that made it impossible for her own workers to buy homes. And finally, Sacramento floated something that made her decision for her. Here's what nobody else is talking about. There's a proposal on the table right now in California. It's called the 2026 Billionaire Tax Act. One-time tax, 5% of your entire net worth. If you're a billionaire living in California as of January 1st, yesterday, 2026, you owe. Lindsay Snyder is worth $8.7 billion. 5% of that is $435 million. One check to second.
And you got to think about it. We just now found out all of our tax money is being laundered and given to illegals and scamming migrants from other countries in the world. And because the truth of the matter is this, all these migrants that we're seeing in the country, like 90% of them don't actually want to be here. They didn't come here by choice. They came here because they were hired. And when I say hired, it's because they are literally paid to be here. So what these governments are doing in these cities is they're overlooking the fraud because that's their compensation to these people to come over here and just be warm bodies, because unfortunately, that's how our system works when it comes to assessing how many congressional seats per state one will get, is how many people live in a state. It doesn't matter if you're a citizen or not, which is a huge oversight. Only thing that matters is if you are a living person. So that's why they've been importing and bringing all these people over here. But these people are from other countries. They're not stupid. You have to pay them. And if you're paying them to come live here, then you got to pay for my housing, my food, plus you got to pay me a stipend every month, which was a problem because when Trump cut that off back in October, well, these people were showing up to town hall meetings in their area and saying, hey, you got 2 weeks to make sure I got my money or me and my family are leaving. Now, when Americans are hearing this, we're like, wait a minute. I thought you were here because you have nowhere else to go. Leave and go where? They're like, yeah, we're going to go back home. They're like, wait a minute, I thought your country was war-torn. And they're like, what war? So a lot of Americans were thinking that Costa Rica's at war and all these different, and Colombia's at war and all these places. There's no wars. These people are literally paid to come live here. And also they're paid to vote. And then because there's no auditing, that means illegals can vote too. Because why can't they? They're not going to be arrested and there's not going to be an audit. You're not going, and then even if there is an audit, you're not going to change the election results. We learned that after 2020. After knowing that your tax dollars are basically going into buying and paying people to come here to replace you, how much more do you want to give? More money to the government or zero now? I'm leaning towards zero. I will not be filing anything in 2026 until we find out what the fuck is going on. There's way too many Somalians and other foreigners. Dude, there's a guy that works in the government in Somalia. He even has a daycare over here that's scamming. How is it that elected officials in other countries can open up scam businesses in the United States and they don't even live here? And you think that I want to give my tax money to the same people that allow that, who are mismanaging it. You think I want to give them more? And you expecting this woman to give up 400 million to a country that can't even weed out the scammers from other countries and that are letting us just get screwed every day because they don't know how to manage money? No, the answer is no. We're not doing that.
Sacramento.
We're building an office in Franklin. So I'm actually moving out there. I gave them a lot of notice, because we love them and want to make it as easy as possible. But by 2030, we'll close their Irvine office.
She's building a new headquarters in Tennessee. The address, 1948 Double Double Drive. That's not a coincidence. That's a statement. Now she's going to be fine. She's got lawyers. She's got accountants. She's got a ranch in Tennessee. She's out. But here's where the story becomes your story. You're not a billionaire. You're not leaving. You got a job here, kids in school, probably a mortgage. When she leaves, when her tax dollars leave, when the billionaires scatter, Sacramento's not going to cut spending. They're addicts. They're going to look around and say, who's left? You're left. So let me do the math for you. You make $130,000 a year. That's a good job. Electrician, warehouse manager, maybe you're in tech. 5% of $130,000, $6,500. That's your emergency fund. That's your kids' braces. That's 2 months of rent. Gone. You make $272,000. That's what they call middle class here in California, which is insane, but that's another video. 5% of that is $13,600. That's daycare. That's your property tax bill. That's your family vacation that you'll never take. Lindsay Snyder was looking at $435 million bill. She left. You're looking at $6,500, $13,600, and you can't leave. That's the game. The billionaire escapes, you're trapped, and you pay the bill they left behind. This burger is $6. The woman who made it possible, whose grandparents invented this in 77 years ago, just said goodbye to California. She held on longer than Tesla, longer than Oracle, longer than Chevron, longer than SpaceX, but she's the last loyalist. And even
Chevron they're just now relocating to Houston. They just announced it. So she's right after Chevron. The biggest companies are all pulling out of California. They don't want anyone here. They want California to be a communist, socialist country like Venezuela. That's what they want. That's why do you think they're so mad about what happened to Maduro? Because that's their goal. That's their goal, ideal place. California is and will be a Venezuela if we do not rid the government of the corruption and pull those officials out of there. If we keep letting Democrats with their fraud create a supermajority in California, then California and our entire West Coast will be the next Venezuela.
She said, enough is enough. This place isn't going anywhere. Not yet. 281 locations in California. But the heart, the owner, the future, well, that's in Tennessee now. And you're still here paying for the roads that she used, the schools her employees' kids went to, the infrastructure that built her empire. She got rich here. She got out. And guess who's left holding the bill? You. If you're new here, I break down how California policy hits your wallet. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.
Informative and great, but it's good to see other people finally seeing through the veil of BS in California. I just seen it a little bit earlier, but you know what they say, better late than never. So and every day is the first day of the rest of your life, and she's making the appropriate moves to safeguard her family and their future. And I respect that from her. Hopefully she didn't fall for the propaganda and they didn't give each other the shot. Or there'll be another family that is basically American royalty that is going to have a curse. The Kennedy family is already being followed up by the curse of the vaccine. It just had one of their granddaughters just passed away at 35. This vaccine situation is the reason. It's one of the main things I always talk about every day, but it's because of a reason. I was just at Starbucks just now. One of my best friends, one of my best guys I've ever met. He lives out here, and he's in there, and he was like, they just out of the blue found a mass in my mother, and he tried to stop her from taking those vaxes. Now she's literally in the hospital. I'm about to go see him right now once I get done with this live. This whole, they injected all of our friends and family with poison that is literally giving them cancer and heart attacks and killing them. So that's why this is such a huge and major deal to me, and it should be a big deal to you if you're not. But if you're not noticing everybody around you dying, it's because you're not paying attention. So here I am. I'm gonna do what I can to keep things in perspective for you and bring you the latest news. This is what's going on with California because this is my home state. It does mean a lot to me, so I talk about a lot of California stuff too. Like and subscribe, share the video. I'll be back shortly with another topic. And remember, America first, America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.